So I request all of you to bear with me for making a speech on a difficult subject in a difficult language. We are all not ordinary members of Indian nation. We are all very chosen people. We have come here on a mission. We are part of a very large national mission. And the kind of work which the Swadeshi Jagran Manch is doing is capable of being done only by an organization like Swadeshi Jagran Manch. It cannot be done by a political party. It cannot be done by even social organizations. It cannot be done by even a government. So in that sense, we have a mission and we are part of that mission. Here the most critical aspect of anyone who undertakes a mission is to understand the true nature of the work. And it is not an ordinary understanding which is needed to understand the economic issues in India. We have to understand some economics. We have to understand some politics. We have to understand about the Indian society. And we have to understand something about global politics. So it is a culmination of different disciplines. Different areas of knowledge converges into our mission. That is why I said this subject is difficult. We need people who can understand this subject and articulate it. Take this message to the people in their respective languages. So this is where I am falling short here. I am not able to present this subject in any language other than Tamil or English. And here I have to do this in English. Now, it is more than a decade since we started this great work. It was started in the context of a certain situation which arose in 1991. All of us know that suddenly the Indian economy was opened and the dictates of IMF, World Bank and the Western countries forced India into a U-turn. We have been proceeding in a certain way from 1950. It is not that that way was correct. The socialist way was not the correct way for India. But still we were proceeding in a particular way. But once socialism collapsed at the global level in 1990-91, we were made to take a U-turn. You can understand if you are going in a motorcycle and if you have to take a sudden U-turn, how risky it is. Your U-turn will have to be a very big U-turn. The world is round. But when you travel along the road, you don't see the world is round. You always see it is straight. So even a U-turn will have to be so made that at every point it looks straight. That means you need time to adjust. But without any kind of time which the Indian economy needed, we were made to immediately shift from one method to the other, and globalization came in immediately in 1991. And the Swadeshi Jagran Manch was born to avert the danger to which this country was exposed. And so we had to respond to whatever the government was saying, the newspapers were saying, the economists were saying, IMF and World Bank were doing. But there was also a tremendous amount of advantage which resulted because of the challenge we were made to face. For the first time, many of us began studying what is happening at the global level. What is happening in America, what is happening in Europe, what is happening in Japan. How different countries are facing this situation. We began studying them. And we began studying about India. What is the real strength of India? What is the difference between the Indian situation and the situation in Western countries? We began studying them. We began studying where our policy makers are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. We began studying the government closely. We began studying the opinion makers, the media, the economists. So, in this entire process, our knowledge base began to increase. In fact, today we can say with some amount of confidence that if there is any one organization which has an overview of not only economic issues but also the geopolitics which is driving economics, it is the Swadeshi Jagran. There are many people who are keen observers of this. I am going to share with you today what is my study. My study, not in a very limited sense, that it is done by me. I am part of a large group of people who are doing this study. There are many research institutions like the Center for Policy Studies in Madras, of whom I am the beneficiary. In fact, I can say I am the spokesman of the team which has made this study. Now, we have been talking about Swadeshi. Some of us understand Swadeshi in very simple terms. That this is goods made in India. These are goods made outside India or by multinationals in India. You must use the Indian goods. That shows the Swadeshi spirit. Not using multinational goods or foreign goods shows the Swadeshi spirit. But this does not exhaust Swadeshi. This is the beginning, this is the opening, this is the key, this is the first step. That if all goods which are available abroad are made in India, that is not Swadeshi. Swadeshi has a much more deeper, more critical, more comprehensive, more subtle meaning. It just doesn't touch upon only goods or money or just economics. It envelops a very large aspect of life. Not only human life, but life on earth. It's a very vast concept. But I am not going to diffuse the whole presentation into environmental attitudes or ecological attitudes. How the development is unsustainable, I will not go into these areas. I will present the whole thing from purely economic perspective. Now all of us are made to believe, many of our intellectuals, opinion makers, policy makers, political parties, bureaucrats, all of us have made us feel that development means you have to look at the Western countries. That is development. You have to look at America. You have to look at Europe. There is no other visible symbol of development. That is the illustration. And there is no other way for development. This is almost the opinion making in India. Barring a few exceptions here and there, it is the Western model, Western ideas, Western institutions, Western policies that makes the Indian debate, that completes the Indian agenda today. And here, if there is any group which can shake this and which is shaking this basic assumption, that is the Swadeshi movement. It is now virtually conceded. And it is now conceded to this extent that if the Indian company share values go up in the stock market, the Swadeshi companies are gaining. That is the extent of awareness which the Swadeshi Jagran Manch has created. That anything that furthers the interest of this country, the strength of this country, the potentiality of this country, that is Swadeshi. So we have established that we are the alternative pole of thought. We present the alternative thought. But still, the establishment is in the hands of people who believe that India can develop only through the model of the West. That means we have to examine what the Western model is. Now all of us know West means America. Because even in America, even in the West, even though European countries are Western countries, America is the model even for the European countries. And many of our people want to go to America, settle in America, take a job in America, maybe even would like to become citizens of America. This you can see from the thousands of people who stand in queue outside the US consulate to get a visa to enter the United States. This shows United States attracts everybody. So naturally that which is so important in the mind of the people should be examined. All of us are made to believe, and we believe. Not only we believe, we also sometimes talk. America is the most powerful economy in the world. It is militarily the most powerful country. And it is virtually a one-point reference for the world today. This is how America is projected. Intellectually powerful. It runs the most efficient government. The best market system in the world. Everything. One-point reference is America. This blind imitation of America is now guiding the world. In fact, globalization is very nearly equivalent to Americanization. That is why we have to understand this American myth. How many of us know? And when I am saying us, it is not only people here. How many experts in this country know? How many bureaucrats know? How many journalists know? How many politicians know? America is not the richest country in the world. It is the most borrowed nation in the world. The amount of borrowing which America has made, if you total that borrowing and keep it on the one side, and the borrowings of all other nations are added and kept on the other side, the amount of money America has borrowed is at least 20 times more than the amount of money all other nations have borrowed. The borrowing America has made is in American currency, in American terminology, $5.5 trillion. Many people do not know what is a trillion. Some do not even know what is a billion. I will translate it in Indian rupees. The amount of money America has borrowed, if it is translated into Indian rupees, it is 2,75,000 crores. You can understand what it is. It is not that they have borrowed and stopped borrowing. They are borrowing every day. In fact, there is one name in America, Alan Greenspan. This Alan Greenspan has emerged as a cult figure. He makes a statement once in 3 months. And what statement he makes, the entire world is looking at the television to find out what statement this man is going to make. And he said in September that if America has to survive, every day America has to borrow 10,000 crores from other countries. Every day, 10,000 crores. If America cannot borrow this money, the American economy will have to close down. This is his statement. Why America is borrowing this money? All of us know in 1991 we had a problem. What was that problem? The foreign exchange crisis. We just did not have foreign exchange at all. In fact, next month's imports we couldn't pay. We had to pledge our gold to get some money. Just like a householder pledging the jewel of his wife. You can understand what could be the state of that family. That was the state of the Indian economy, the Indian nation in 1991. when we had to pledge our gold to get some money to pay for imports. Our imports were more than the exports. But it is not by a huge margin. But you know what is America's imports as compared to their exports? Every year, America's imports exceed their exports by $440 billion. $440 billion. It is approximately 34 lakh crores. Their imports are more than the exports. And if you import more and export less, you have to pay for it, for which they don't have the money. Who gives them the money? There are countries which lend money to America. Japan is the country which is lending the maximum to America. They have lent something like $3 trillion, which is 150 lakh crores is the amount which Japan has lent to America. Many people can ask this question. Why Japan is lending to America? How Japan is able to lend to America? I will come to it after saying who are the other people who are lending money to America. China is lending money to America. They have lent $300 billion, which is 15 lakh crores. I am giving approximate figures. 15 lakh crores is the amount which China has lent to America. I am going to give you a surprise information. Many of us are made to believe that India cannot run without America. That American investment is needed. Without American investment, India cannot survive. So we need American investment. And for that we will do anything. Your newspapers will glorify America. Your government will do whatever America wants so that you will get American investment. From 1991 to 2001, if you total all the investments that have come from America, it is $15 billion. $15 billion. Approximately 45,000 crores. You can take it. But you know what is the amount of money India has lent to America? India lending to America? We can't believe. India has lent to America $65 billion today. If you take the balance, in today's balance sheet, every day it is increasing. But today, India has lent to America $65 billion. Approximately, you can say it is equal to 3,25,000 crores. India has lent to America. Ministers in India are not aware of this. Most newspapers do not know about it. Many economists, business people do not know about it. I have addressed corporate meetings, captains. When I told them this, they were stunned. Because they do not know. When you say your foreign exchange reserve has gone up to $70 billion, you don't keep the foreign exchange in lock and key. You invest in American securities. It is like you are purchasing Government of India bonds. When you purchase Government of India bonds, it is an asset for you, it is a property for you, it is an investment for you. But for the Government of India, it is a loan. The government has borrowed money from you. Likewise, when India invests in American bonds, it is an investment for India. But for America, it is a liability, it is a loan. How many people know that India has invested in America 4 times the amount America has invested in India? Not only that, the American investment in India is in the form of factories, in the form of buildings. But India's investment in America is money spent and gone. How money is spent? All of us know that we save money. Every year the Indian families save about 3.5 lakh crores. 3.5 lakh crores is the money saved by the Indian families. And this money you deposit in banks. It is in PF. It is in some deposit somewhere, or you may buy shares. So this money goes to the banks, this money goes to government, this money goes to the companies. And when the government wants to borrow money, it borrows money from the PF fund, it borrows money from the bank. And you know, our government is run on borrowing. Our government borrows approximately 150,000 crores a year. 1,50,000 crores the government borrows. It is able to borrow money because the people save, deposit it in banks, and so the government is able to borrow money. This is not the case in America. In America there is no savings at all. Why there is no savings? There is no family. If there is no family, there will be no savings. Why there is no family in America? There is no family in America because there is enormous cultural degeneration in America which has taken place in the last 50 years. And to what extent? 1/3 of the pregnant women are school-going children, unwed school-going children. 1/3 of the pregnant. There are creches attached to schools, so that the girls who are 10 or 12 or 11 who carry their babies in their arms can deposit the babies in the creches and attend school. 1/3 of the pregnant. 49% of the children born in America are single parent children. They live with the father or the mother, but not the father and the mother together. And not only that, most of them do not know the name of their father. This is the extent of collapse in the family. With the result, there is no family at all. So nobody takes, no father to take care of, no grandfather to take care of, no brother to take care of. Even if there are any, they need not take care. So the government has to take care of all these people. Unemployed people, aged people, infirm people, retired people, people who cannot look after themselves. They have to be taken care of by the government. With the result, the entire burden which a family normally looks after has passed on to the government. And the family, no individual saves, because he need not have to take care of himself. If he retires, the government will take care of him. He need not have to take care of his son, because unemployed insurance, the son will get unemployment loan. The son need not have to take care of the father will be taken care of by the government. Nobody saves. With the result, you know the extent. It is not only they do not save. The Americans borrow money and spend. American families, individuals. The total American family borrowing through credit card is $1.75 trillion from American banks. $1.75 trillion. $1.75 trillion means 87.5 lakh crores is the amount which the American people have borrowed from the American banking system. Instead of depositing money into the bank, they borrow money from the bank. Where will the bank lend money from? So the banks borrow money in China, in America, in Japan, in India, in Taiwan, in Korea, in Malaysia, in Indonesia. Everywhere the American banks borrow money to lend to their own people. Why should these countries lend money? Take for instance Japan. Japan has lent so much money to America. Why? Because Japanese economy is based on their exports. Japan exports to America more than America exports to Japan. Japan exports a net surplus of $120 billion. America will not import unless America has money. Somebody has to lend money to America for America to import. And unless America imports, Japanese industries will close down. So Japan lends money to America and asks America to buy its goods. It is like a shopkeeper. He doesn't have people who will buy the goods. So he calls people on the road and tells them, I will give you money, you buy goods from me. This is like the shopkeeper lending. You must understand the horrendous picture that emerges in the world. Why is this picture emerging? This is where the idea of Swadeshi will emerge in your mind. How is it that Japan is able to lend 150 lakh crores to America? Very simple. The Japanese people save. Why America borrows? Because the Americans do not save. Not only they do not save, the Americans also borrow. Why Japanese save? Because there is a family system in Japan. And in the last 10 years, Japanese economy has been coming down. And American economists, even many Japanese economists, World Bank, IMF, all of them began telling Japan, your economy is coming down because your people are not spending, they are saving. Unless your people spend money, Japanese economy cannot grow. So you must make your people spend money. This is what the advice economists gave, World Bank gave, IMF gave, even Japanese economists also gave this advice. So the Japanese government began asking the people to spend money. They were not spending money. So they were giving an interest rate of 5% on deposits. They said if you cut the interest rates, then people will naturally not have the incentive to save. They will begin spending. So they cut the rate from 4 to 5%. The Japanese did not spend. Then they cut the rate from 4 to 3. Even then they did not spend. From 3 to 2, they did not spend. 3 to 1, they didn't spend. Then the Japanese government said, if you deposit money in banks, we won't give you interest. Even then they did not spend. Then they said, no. If you want to deposit money in bank, you should not only give deposit, you should also give us a fees to keep your money. Even then they did not spend. It is because of a strong family life. Where there is family, there will be savings. A saving economy will only grow slow. This is the modern economic view. So you must make the people spend. American economy grows fast. It becomes a super economy. Why? People spend. But there is a limit to spending. Somebody must give you loan for you to keep on spending. Now in America this question has arisen. How long the world will continue to lend us money? This question has arisen in America. That is the statement which Alan Greenspan made. That a time has come when the world is not going to lend money to America because the faith in America is going down for two reasons. One, everybody thought America is a stable, mighty, military country. Nobody can shake America. The September 11 attack has completely shaken that. If America is afraid of terror, it is not because just loss of lives. They also know one more terror attack in America means people who have invested money in America will pull their money out. That will be the end of the American economy. Once this process reverses, there is no America. America is not saving. Americans are not saving because there is no family. In India, we save 3.5 lakh crores a year. 350,000 crores a year, I told you. It is because of a family system. In America, the economy is consumption driven. In fact, I was in Los Angeles. One of my American friends, he's a doctor, he's a Catholic, very firm believer. He told me, Mr. Gurumurthy, you look at our damn country. This country runs only because of retail stores. If the retail stores are closed for 1 week, our people will not know what to do. They survive only by buying and by borrowing and buying. This has become some kind of an obsession with America. You know, in every country there is something called investor confidence. Investor confidence index will be there in India, in Japan, in Germany, in France, Italy. In America, what drives the American economy is not the investor confidence, but the consumer confidence. Whether the consumer is confident to buy more. If the consumer is confident to buy more, then the American economy will grow. You will be amazed to know that in 1992, when we were in such deep crisis, one Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati, born in India, but he is one of the top economists recognized in America. He is the guru of Paul Krugman. Any day he will get a Nobel Prize. He was one of the economists who assisted the formulation of the WTO agreement. The government of India brought him and sought his advice. Please tell us, we are in a mess. How can the Indian economy be stabilized? How can we begin growing? He gave a note, a 60-page note, in which in 4 pages he said, the problem with India is the Indians are saving. He regarded it as a problem. And he said, you must tell them to spend. Unless you make the Indians spend, they are saving wastefully. Unless they spend money, your economy cannot grow. You understand the Western orientation and the Swadeshi orientation. In the Swadeshi view of life, even the family of a businessman will be run only on the principles of Dharma. Family. He may not run the business on Dharma. And the mother. The American government has to give an allowance for that family. You believe 49% of the American families are receiving this money from the government. American government has constituted 3 commissions. Because they believe by 2011, if the American government continues to undertake this responsibility, the American government will become insolvent. So they want to find an alternative to that. Every commission said, this should be privatized. And every commission also said it cannot be privatized. You know why? Because you cannot create families. You cannot pass a government order, from tomorrow onwards, all of us will be families. It's not possible. In fact, the American government has passed a law. If husband and wife live together, they will get tax concessions. But you know, no woman would like to live with a husband whom she doesn't like simply because there is tax concession. Law cannot correct it. Families are sustained on principles of Dharma. And the position in many Western countries is much worse than America. So I asked my friend, can this burden be privatized in America, in Germany, in Italy, in France, in Sweden? In America, the social security burden is 30% of the GDP. In Sweden, it is 65% of the GDP. You can't believe. In Sweden, 65% of men and women live together without marriage, anybody with any length of time, so that 70% of the children born do not know the name of their father. With the result, the government has passed a law in April 2001 that anyone above the age of 58 can appoint a clerk to look after himself, and the government will pay the salary for the clerk. You can understand the collapse of the family and the community in those countries. So when I asked my friend, is it possible to privatize this burden? He said no. I said, it has been privatized in this country. It is the families which look after all this burden. If all Indians decide to disown their parents, grandparents, widowed sisters, unemployed brothers, unemployed sons, and ask the government to take care of them like Americans, the entire budget of the government of India will not be sufficient to provide 2 square miles for 60 crore people. He told me, I told him one thing. This privatization has not been done by the government. This is done by our culture, by our tradition, by the dharmic way of life. Nobody thinks his parents or grandparents or brothers or sisters is an economic burden. See the bhava, the difference in attitudes. You can't create it. But as Francis Fukuyama said, you can destroy it. You just announce tomorrow. Let Vajpayee ji stand up and announce that in this country, the condition of the old people is so poor. I will give 1,000 rupees pension per month to all people above the age of 60. Every family will pack the people above the age of 60 and send them to the government office. So the government can destroy the respect for the elderly people. can destroy the family's integrity by introducing money within the family. But it cannot recreate it. Swadeshi is founded on this. In fact, my friend told me when I explained this, Guru, if this one point, if it is articulated by the Indian intellectuals, Indian economists, Indian policymakers, Indian leaders, in the Western opinion-making bodies, the balance sheet of the government of India will be more bankable than the balance sheet of any Western country. That is the basis of Swadeshi. Very strong foundation. Community looks after law and order here. You know the amount of violence in the West? 100,000 population produces 680 people charged with hardened crime in America. In India it is just 4. India is the bottom of the table. America is at the top of the table. Why? Because there is social overseeing here. There are religious heads, community heads, respect for elders. There is a social eye overseeing everybody. Modern economists have begun calling it as social capital. Financial capital you can own. If you have 1 lakh rupee, it belongs to you. If you have a property, it belongs to you. Intellectual capital belongs to you. If you are a chartered accountant, if you are an engineer, that knowledge belongs to you. But social capital cannot be owned by an individual. It can only be owned collectively. We have that social capital. The social capital can be destroyed by the state. It can be destroyed by the market. It can be destroyed by Western influence over India. But it cannot be created by any mechanism. See the dimensions of Swadeshi. It's not a question of whether some goods are sold in India from abroad. It's a very trivial affair. It's a much larger issue. This is the mission we are working for. I have given maybe incoherently a direction towards it. It's a massive concept. 1/6 of humanity cannot be run by market. It cannot be run by state. It cannot be run by policies. It has to run itself. And we have to tell the society this. We must tell this society, you are a great society, you are doing this. This society is being trivialized. It is being told you are useless. Just as our findings show, even in the field of economics, the Tirupur people who are exporting 5,000 crore worth knitwear garments never thought they were doing something great. Till we went and told them, you are doing something great. Afterwards they felt they are doing something great. And the ministers in the government do not know. In fact, one minister asked me, you are talking about Tirupur. What are they doing? 5% of India's exports is being done by a small place. Boston University sends a team to study this. The government is not aware. The media is not aware. That is the strength of India. The Swadeshi Jagaran Manch has taken avatar to make the Indian people realize their fundamental strength. To make the media, to make the opinion makers, to make the government, the policy makers understand this. We are not a weak nation. We have weaknesses. We are not a poor nation. We have poverty. We are not an illiterate nation. We have illiteracy. But don't make the brand of India poor. I will conclude this with one illustration. You all know this is Titan watch. Many of us are wearing this watch. Titan watch is produced in India by Tata Industries. But when they conceived of Titan as a brand, they didn't think of it as an Indian brand. They wanted it to be a global brand. Because in the global area, if you see the watch market, Swiss watches occupy the topmost position. They are high-end watches. Some watches cost 10 lakh rupees. The Japanese cater to a lower-end market, 200 rupees, 300 rupees, 400 rupees, 500 rupees watches. So Tata's found there is a mid-segment, there is a yawning gap between the top and the low, and so they can capture the mid-segment. They made the technology ready, they got the money ready, they got the management skill ready, they got the marketing strategy ready, everything was ready. But they all sat together And when they made the market analysis, one point came up as the most important point. What is that point? The image of India is so poor. It is an illiterate country. It's a bad country. It's a country of violence. There is caste clashes everywhere. It's a rotten country. We only bring daughters-in-law to bake them and burn them in our houses. This is the image of India. You said, how can this country produce such a fine piece of watch? This is the question in the mind of the distributors, consumers and investors in the Western countries. So the suggestion was, don't put made in India in the watch. This was the suggestion given. Because the image of India is poor, the brand of India is poor. So the brand of the goods produced in India cannot be superior to the brand of India itself. So you know what they first put? They didn't put made in India. They said the best of technology is assembled in India. Who is responsible for this? We are responsible for creating such a poor image about this country. We have to transform this image. I plead everyone who appears on this platform not to say India is a poor country. It is a very rich country. It doesn't know how to distribute its richness. That's the problem of India. We have to change the brand of India. It's a mighty national mission awaiting us. It cannot be done by government. The government is the most ignorant instrument in India because it is an Anglo-Saxon mechanism which has been brought to rule India and not to guide India. So we need to perform this great national mission. And I think all of us should undertake a study of the Indian society. In the last 10 years, what some of us have learned is something unbelievable which no library, no university in India can teach. And that is the mission which is in our hands. Thank you very much.
Pablo.